And we are live once again. Two of the most dangerous men on the planet, arguably, going live, talking to you about world-class dating advice and tactics and strategies and existential rants based on our you, me and Les, it's over 30 years experience in the trenches, isn't it? It's probably more than that, to be honest, because I lie by my age most of the time. So it's probably more like 50 years. But anyway, we'll put that to But so I'm in London, James in Sao Paulo again. We've been doing these. We did one yesterday. We do these a bit more regularly, which has been really good.
And we're joining forces, of course, in Mexico City for the biggest party of the year. The Mexicans' equivalent of Rio Carnival, Day of the Dead in Mexico City. It's going to be popping. Lots of day game opportunities, women dressed up in very little. The weather's great. Lots of bar game, night game opportunities. Again, this theme of it's basically the extended Mexican Halloween, right? But a bit more in line with our belief system of remember the fact we're mortal, right? They have this. It's called Dia de los Muertos, Day of the Dead, right? They're remembering the fact all their relatives gone before, but not in a kind of sad funeral style way, in a celebration of life. So let's seize it, carpe diem, and have as much fun as possible. And of course, the tequila will be flowing. So yeah, it's going to be an awesome opportunity for guys to join. Slightly longer immersion, 29th of October till the 3rd of November. But guys, you are on I know our American viewers get fucked for vacation, literally. So if you do have less time, you're welcome to just join on a per day price. 1, 2, 3, 4 days. Obviously, if you can come for the whole immersion, you're going to get the most benefit because momentum builds, doesn't it? Over the first couple of days, it always starts a bit slower, and then guys seem to ramp up and start to get in the swing of it.
Yeah, it really does.
Which makes sense because you always talk about this rule of 100, which I think is a really good concept. And especially if applied to cold approach, guys always say they'll be doing stuff, but they haven't really. And then when they come, of course, the first 10, 20 approaches are a bit stagnant, aren't they? But by the 30th, 40th, 50th approach over a few days, they're starting to really get in the hang of it. And you're training your nervous system that this isn't lethal. Oh, shit, it becomes slightly easier and you feel more confident. That's how it works.
Yeah, and it's even the same for us, even having done, many thousands of approaches over many years. I mean, we always say, you go to a new city and it takes a few days just to get reacclimatized to that new place, and there might be jet lag involved as well if you come over from Europe or whatever. Plus with us, obviously we've been to Mexico City quite a number of times, so it's somewhat familiar, but even then it takes a few days to sort of sink into the new environment. So if you're, a student, maybe you're not somebody who's very well versed in approach or day game, and you're coming to a city that maybe you haven't been to before, it makes sense for you to be there for a little bit longer because it's the first couple of days are basically not throwaway, but it's basically like the warm up. And then as the session goes on, invariably students get better as the session goes on, and the real successes start to come a bit later in the training.
100%. And what are the key things we always see? Key things that guys need to be aware of when they're throwing themselves in, that they're just going to get through to make it easier? Is it simply a case of just almost switching off your emotions and being a social scientist and just doing the reps, or should they be doing it with the idea of trying to make it as fun as possible? Or
I think a bit of both, really. I mean, you're very good at putting in this concept of making everything as fun as possible, gamifying it, making it a game, and I think that is the right way to approach it, really. Because yes, obviously, when we're on a boot camp, when we're in Mexico City, yes, obviously we would like you to get results there, and we would help you with that. We'll help you with the testing, with logistics. We can recommend date locations and all of this kind of stuff. But equally, it's not just about results that may or may not happen there. It's about learning the skill set, So in a sense, take the pressure off yourself, because it doesn't really matter. You get rejected by first couple of days, you get rejected by 10, 15 girls. So what? It doesn't matter. It's not about that. It's about getting comfortable with it, building the skill set, and becoming that social animal. So just make it a game. And the other thing is, it's a very artificial sort of environment. You know, we're going on this thing. It's like it's a little bit of a lad's holiday. There's a bit of camaraderie, but we're also there for a serious purpose. But it's sort of like just for those few days. You know, you're off work. You're kind of on a semi-vacation, although it will also be hard work. But you're sort of out of your normal comfort zone. You can be whoever you want to be. You can reinvent yourself for those few days. You know, and nobody's going to call you out. Nobody on the street in Mexico City is going to hang on a minute. You're not really like this. You're that shy boy from Pittsburgh. I mean, nobody's going to know or think that or say that. It's just, you know, they take you as you come. So, yeah, I think it's a bit of both, really.
And it's an asymmetrical upside, isn't it? Because the worst case scenario is the girl doesn't want to have a conversation with you. But the best case scenario is you get a phone number, you go on a date, you sleep with that girl, maybe you see her for a while. There's no doubt. It's like pulling playing a slot machine with a broken coin slot in a Vegas casino. You only get 3 attempts. There's no actual downside as long as you're playing the game, the infinite game of being social. And I think you make a great point about making it fun, because if you with anything, if you can make it fun and make it a game, Alan Watts style, you're more likely to anchor good emotion to it, not take it too seriously, be able to detach from yourself. Like if you're literally playing a video game, I know you interestingly made the point that because of addictive tendencies, you never involved yourself in that world, which I think was clever. When between the age of maybe 12 to 14, I played a lot of video games, not the crazy kind of Korean locked in his man cave for 3 days, forgets to drink and dies level, but addictive, you know, they were addictive. But if we can literally treat areas of our life like areas of a video game, really in that kind of make it as fun as possible, you don't give a fuck if your character in a video game is running in and getting killed. You just reiterate, don't you? Yeah. So I know we're obviously the player and the director and the audience, and we experience the emotions in real time. But if you're able to separate yourself from that by flicking into this third person awareness, looking down at yourself, looking at the action, breaking the emotional loop and thought chains, you can have fun with it, right? Because meaning is assigned by us as well. We are the audience, the player one, first person lens, the audience, third person lens, and the sixth person lens. We create the meaning of each scene, right? So if you see it from the sixth person's lens, if you see your character getting rejected by a girl, you can create the meaning of the default meaning by the brain of, you know, evolutionary programming of, oh, I feel rejected, she doesn't want my kids, or something around that as a default. Or you can say, actually, that's great, because now I'm warmed up from this scene into the next scene, and I'm going to do this bit better. So we can create our own meaning if we're able to zoom out and take different perspectives, and literally like a game, right? So
yeah, for sure. And I mean, you know, it is fun, or at least it should be fun when you do it with, you know, a reasonably positive attitude, you know. And
especially when you're first starting, like it's different if you've been around the block like us and you're a bit jaded by off the fuck, because you've seen the whole thing play out. It can only play out in a finite number of ways. Yeah. But if you're a newbie and you're like, you know, you're excited to meet us, you resonate with our content, you've got a big fucking party coming up, Day of the Dead, you like, you know, hanging around cool guys and having fun, and you've never been to Mexico City before, why wouldn't you be excited by that process?
Yeah, no, exactly. And I mean, when I say it's fun, I mean, look, I'm classically, as somebody said on the last stream, you know, wise up Troy always in the middle of an existential breakdown, and that's true. And I'm, you know, in many ways temperamentally, I'm not, you know, well, it's weird. I'm a bit Jekyll and Hyde, I think, because I do have this kind of quite hedonistic sort of party side, but I also have this very introspective, you know, quite nihilistic side as well. But I mean, even I would say, like you always say, you know, you go out, you talk to a few people. It could be guys, it could be girls, it could be guys, whatever. You go out, talk to a few people, and my mood instantly raises. I mean, I remember we were in Brazil earlier this year at Rio Carnival, and we were teaching some students, and I was, you know, not feeling great and whatever. And I was doing an evening session with a couple of the guys, and so we went out into the bar area. It was really good, actually. I mean, super busy, loads of people around. You know, great vibe, whatever. And the guys were, you know, hanging back a little bit, and they weren't. I was trying to encourage them to approach, and they weren't really doing very much. So I was like, right, okay, I'm going to have to lead from the front here. So I went around and I did a few conversations, and it wasn't that I was looking to make anything happen. I mean, I was with my girlfriend at that point anyway. I wasn't trying to make something happen, but I was going around and just showing them as an example, right, this is how you can open a conversation. This is how you can, you know, whatever. And just doing that, even though I wasn't in a particularly great mood at the beginning of the session, my mood just raised exponentially. And by the end of it, I was like, this is great. You know, I'm really feeling the vibe. So, you know, it does mentally lift you. And this is, you know, Torero saying, oh, day game is therapy, right?
Are you similar to me where you tend to wake up quite negative, quite in my own head, quite kind of fuck the world. But then, yeah, just getting out of the house, hitting the gym and talking to a few people, suddenly my mood just rockets. And it's almost, but without that, if I just sit in the house by myself, I can get to quite negative spaces quite quickly. So
yeah, and I mean, I've got a. I mean, this is veering into a slightly different subject matter, but I keep trying different sorts of things for my routine because on the one hand, because I can work from home, so I can literally get up in the morning, have a cup of coffee, sit down at the laptop, and I can just be sitting at the laptop for like 5 or 6 hours, which is fine. But on the other hand, what's actually has worked for me quite well recently is not doing that, but actually going out, maybe going to the gym, or there's a pool at the, you know, that club that I go to. So maybe going to the pool, doing some lengths of the pool, doing the sauna, stuff like that. And obviously on the way, you'll see people, you maybe talk to a couple of people or whatever. And in a way, that puts me in a better mental headspace to then sit down and do the work. And then you've got the issue of, where do you work? Do I work sat alone in a room in North London, or do I go to a cafe somewhere where there's people around and, you know, blah, blah, blah. And both of them have got their merits, but I think just being around other people, it definitely is a tonic, even if you're a bit of an introvert like I am.
So we're saying introverts they get their energy from being alone, or is that?
Well, I mean, that's
being around people, because you could be a social introvert or an antisocial extrovert.
Well, I think I mean, people, that's classically what people say, isn't it? Introverts gain their energy from being alone. And I think I do up to a point, but I also do like social
introverts, aren't we, on a slight scale? But I've definitely seen you amped up around more people, more so than you would be on your own, which would make you more extroverted because you're gaining energy from being around.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I am. I mean, I think there's a sliding scale. I think we're, like you said, I think we're all ambiverts. I think the problem I had when I was a lot younger was I quite like my own company, but also I've talked about this before. I was also shy, and shyness I think is a different thing, because you could be introverted, not particularly shy, but just introverted. I was introverted and shy, which meant that I found it difficult to talk to other people. Now I'm not shy. I do like periods of time when I'm alone and I take myself off and I'm just, you know, left to my own thoughts and reflections and stuff. But I think it would be wrong to say I'm just this complete introvert, because actually, as much as I might like to lean into that sometimes, the truth of the matter is I do like getting in amongst it. I do like meeting new people. I actually do quite enjoy it. So, yeah.
And from and also from an evolutionary basis, none of us were that introverted, because if you were simply not around other people, you would die. So we're all built from the tribal survival system, right? So I agree. I think ambivert it's a sliding scale, isn't it? And I think sometimes I love being around people. I typically feel more energized when I am, but ultimately as a man who wants to level up and will to power it and kind of crush your weaknesses and do some soul searching and plan your video game of life, you need to be on your own to a degree as well. But I agree. I like the balance of being in a busy place, you're not talking to people because you've got that buzz around you. It allows me to actually focus on a laptop.
My new girlfriend, ChatGPT takes up a lot of my time. So
you can't, and also you can't be seen in public. You like to keep that behind. I like to keep that behind closed doors. If I'm kind of whispering into the device, you know, I have to keep it more subtle in public, but behind closed doors, the real stuff comes out. You know, lying there and whispering, twiddling my hair and looking at the screen affectionately. I need to send you this cynic mode, because that seems to be the most non-people pleasery version that you can now select as the option.
Oh yes. Send that over, because I mean, well, again, segueing into a completely unrelated topic, but of course, one of the problems with AI models and ChatGPT in particular has been that it's a little bit too complimentary. And I saw this I think I shared it with you guys. I saw this joke the other day saying somewhere, the dumbest person you know is having a conversation with ChatGPT. ChatGPT's going, "Yeah, you're so right." Which is sort of true, isn't it? Because whatever you write, type it, he goes, "That's a very astute observation," and
it becomes an echo chamber. And I've definitely called it out wrong a few times, and then it will correct itself. But it's very good. It's a bit like Trump in politics. It will never admit. It's got Muse mastery. It will never admit when it's wrong. It always come up with a reason why it was wrong. Won't it?
I do try to. Yeah, I mean, it depends what the topic is and what I'm trying to get it to do and stuff. But I will often ask it to play devil's advocate and just say, look, am I wrong about this? Or looking at it another way, what about this? And get it to factor that in. So, yeah, but the cynic mode could be quite interesting, actually. I might give that a go. And then it'll just undo everything. It'll just undo everything that it's advised me over the last 3 months. And then I'll just be like, oh, no.
True. Although it's not as, it makes it sound quite ruthless, cynic mode, but it's actually just kind of neutral, if that makes sense. But you made a really good point earlier, which is a lot of guys, I think, label themselves as shy, but actually it's just lack of seeing social skills, the keys in the name, as a skill. I think a lot of guys just grew up not the cool kid in school that are class bars, and they just hadn't had exposure to women because they went to a private school, or they grew up with brothers, or they just weren't in that kind of, the jock circle that would get access to women. So they label themselves as not very social or very shy, but they just haven't had practice at actually socializing. Because again, we always talk, Terrera coined it, but confidence is just situational competence. If you put us doing Colombia's Finest or, having a good time at a party, we're quite good at that now because we've just spent a long time doing it. But if you put me on a ski slope, for example, I can't do that. I feel really unconfident. I feel really self-conscious. I can't ski. But I think a lot of that guys will apply labels to themselves because the victim identity is quite a nice place to hide without taking accountability. But the reality is they just haven't exposed themselves to just doing reps and being social. I would say that, it's kind of an Occam's razor where actually a lot of problems can be solved by guys just being more social, willing to fail, don't get attached to outcome, willing to look like a bit of a fool. But anyway, being self-amusing, saying one extra thing throughout the day 10, 20 times. If guys actually did that for a month in a row, they'd be totally different. They'd view themselves in a totally different light, wouldn't they? And I wish I'd had someone when I was younger just to say that. Go and be more social. There's no harm in it.
Yeah. Well, I think in my case, it was definitely self-labeling. And it was also not entirely true because I did actually have friends at school. I wasn't one of the cool kids, but I wasn't a complete loner either. I did have friends. I did actually have, amazingly, some girls that showed interest in me. I would always get
what was the school like? Was it kind of like Michelle Pfeiffer, Dangerous Minds, where everyone's carrying guns, or was it more kind of like Top Hat and Tails, Hogwarts, or like what was the? I kind of want to know what the vibe was.
I moved. Unfortunately, I moved around schools a little bit when I was sort of teenager.
That would have been tough because that's disruptive, isn't it? And then you feel like you've got to start again, and you're the new kid, so you're going to feel more self-conscious because you're at the front of the class and everyone's looking at you. So then that's harder.
Yeah. And that was another in my list of sort of childhood trauma-esque type things that weren't ideal. But the school that I was at for the longest was a grammar school. It was actually in Somerset because we lived in Somerset for a bit, and it was actually a really good school. It was a mixed co-ed school. And I was there for 4 years. and then my dad took me out in the final year and put me into, we moved, and I went to this new school, which was the worst possible time because by the time I'd reached like the 4th year or whatever it was, I was actually pretty popular, like I had, again, I wasn't the coolest guy there, but I had a circle of friends, people liked me, blah, blah, blah. There were girls who liked me, things like this. And then I moved somewhere else and had to, and it was a complete disaster because, but I forget what point I was going to make though, really. But I think that I created in my own head a narrative of I'm this very shy person. I'm not good socially. And it was certainly somewhat true in situations I wasn't comfortable with. But what I never realized, because we didn't have the internet then, we didn't have ChatGPT, we didn't have people like us making videos banging on about random stuff in the afternoon. So I had no awareness that this was something that could be learned and could be practiced and honed. I just had this idea, I'm this sort of person, and that's it. Yeah. It's a life sentence. And I think there are guys out there.
Same as the kid at school, right? That you'd have seen I had this guy in my class, we'll call him Mr. G, and he was a natural, kind of a bit bad boy, drove around, you know, kind of souped up, Subaru Impreza, all the girls in the private school next door all dated him, just one after the other. And I was just like, for fuck's sake, you know, you either just born with it or you're not. It's not a learned skill, but pretty much everything to do with socializing, seduction, flirting is a learned skill to a degree, isn't it? It
is. But that's the thing. You see, I never knew that.
Well, no one ever told us, right? There was no Rational Male. There was no, you know, us making YouTube videos going, oh, actually, just go and practice being playful with a girl, yank her ponytail, push her on the nose, like take the piss out of her. Like no one's there telling us that, are they?
No, exactly. No, and like I said, back in the black and white days when I was growing up, I mean, there was nothing. I mean, there was no internet, no social media, so there was none of this information.
Neil Strauss hadn't even been born yet. That's how long.
Yeah, probably, yeah. So, you know, I mean, maybe there were a couple of various books around somewhere, but I never saw anything like this. So, I just, like I said, I had this very strong idea in my head. Some people are shy, some people are good socially, some people are not, and that's it. And you've just got to, you know, that's it. Your fate is sealed. I didn't realize that you could change as a person until I did loads of drugs and alcohol, and then I realized you can change as a person. And look, once again, disclaimer: I don't recommend anyone goes down that route. But the interesting thing about using substances of different kinds, and you could talk about hallucinogens here, you could talk about ayahuasca, you could talk about DMT. It does change your perception, and it does make you realize that we're more than the sum of our parts. So although I got into a lot of trouble, like drinking a lot and doing various other things, at the same time, it did show me that I could be bigger than the person that I thought that I naturally was, if that makes sense. You know?
We're all, as the creator of the Dilbert comics, which I never watched, said, but I thought it was a great quote. We're just moist robots, right? We're programmable robots, and if you're going to have these default stories in your head because of just life experience, but it doesn't mean you can't change. And I think, you know, the point about guys labeling themselves as shy. If I take any man who's quite confident and suddenly stick him down an environment where he's not used to it, right? We stick him down in a modeling event run by Felipe with 5 girls at the table and go, right, make small talk with them, keep them entertained. The most ardent one-on-one day game player who's very good at the one-on-one conversation in the street would probably feel quite uncomfortable in that situation because he doesn't have the competence, because he hasn't done it 50, 100 times, right? Coming back to your rule of 100. But pretty much anything with socializing, if you put yourself in that position long enough, reiterate and train your nervous system, you're not going to die. You relax and you become better. So all of this stuff, again, treating it like a game, guys have just got to figure out, like, you can do it, right? You can actually do it. We've seen dramatic transformations, haven't we, of guys? I always remember Mr. E down we were both on some substance, come down to it, both like, for fuck's sake, let's not, I hope this one isn't emotional. Mr. E comes down and starts talking about the phoenix rising from the ashes and all this stuff. And we're just like, heaven, fuck, we need to go back to bed. But it was actually very emotional. It reminded me of how powerful this stuff is when you really throw yourself in.
Well, he was like basically saying it was like being, I mean, reborn, wasn't it? Yeah. Which
probably similar to you, just because probably someone had taken him, us taking him by the scruff of the neck and said, look, man, we believe in you. By the way, you can actually learn this stuff, right? Go and do 50 approaches, see how you feel. And he comes back and he's gotten a few dates and he's suddenly like, oh my God, you can actually consciously create your reality. You're not just a slave to some story you've created. Because guys will ask themselves, these stories that they live by, often negative cages, where have they come from? And are they a convenient place to hide rather than take responsibility? Often they are. Often they are just trapped in their mind. There's no external evidence that actually showcases anything other than the fact they haven't put themselves in the situation of the thing they want to learn.
Yeah. No, exactly. And I mean, the other thing is as well, I mean, having the courage to fail, I think, is a super important thing, because one of the reasons that I didn't make, how can I put it? I didn't make more progress with girls when I'm talking very young now, like late teens, early 20s. Well, certainly late teens.
Well, that's the important time to talk about, because that's the pain period for a lot of guys where all this kind of forms, isn't it? I think.
Yeah, so I mean, and it was this odd. It was an odd period because like I said, on the one hand, I would get one-itis, as they call it. So I would get sort of fixated on one particular girl, who was in my college or something. So, oh my God, she's amazing. She could be my future wife. She's so perfect. Blah blah blah. Really put her on a pedestal. And inevitably, of course, those girls wouldn't be interested. But there were other girls who were interested and who sort of made it known to me, and but I didn't pursue, again, because I had no idea about these dynamics. I didn't sort of pursue anything with those girls very, very much because I thought it would wreck my chances with Miss A, who was at the top of the pile. But one of the reasons, but what I would do instead was, if I really liked a particular girl, I would just sort of try to be friends with her and just sort of hang around and hope something happened. And one of the reasons that I never put it on the line, which of course is now what we typically do, is basically put it on the line and say, look, I like you, I think you're cool, why don't we go and grab drinks? And if she says yes or she says no. One of the reasons I didn't do that was because I was so scared of rejection. I was so scared of what her reaction might be, because if she said, actually, sorry, John, I'm not interested. Sorry, Troy, I'm not interested. That's my middle name. That would have felt so crushing.
Yes,
that I wasn't able to withstand that. So, and I think one of the big lessons that I learned was, and again, maybe it tags back to this thing about making it a game. But it's just like it doesn't really matter that much. If one of these girls had said, actually, sorry, I'm not interested. I see you as a friend, whatever. Yeah, it would have stung a little bit, but really, so what? In the big scheme of things, so who cares? So what?
What's your, now fast forward, 30 years, what's your now take on rejection? If you could, what are the key points to think about now with rejection? Running towards it, loving it, accepting it, almost amor fatiing it, seeing it as an inevitable part of the process, but you might as well enjoy it? Or what are some kind of key points we can come up with?
I think probably a bit of amor fati, which is to say, love of one's fate. So if you do get rejected, and rejections come in different forms. I mean, it's not necessarily that, I'm going up to a girl at a party and she's saying, oh, take me to F off or something. It's not necessarily like that, but it's more like she doesn't text back, or, we're trying to arrange something and then suddenly she disappears or something like that. It can be mildly disappointing, but I no longer see it as a huge reflection on my value. So that's the first thing.
Which is absolutely not.
Yeah. Exactly, because, and I always say, but when you think about it, statistically, if there's 8 billion people on the planet, so 4 billion women, of which, even if a small percentage of those you found attractive, right? That's still more women than you could ever hope to meet in your entire life. The opinion of one or two of them who maybe just aren't that into you now, for whatever reason, is irrelevant. It's statistically irrelevant. It's no reflection on you at all. Even if one of those girls thinks I'm the least attractive guy on the planet, it's still irrelevant in the big scheme of things, because she's one person out of billions of other people.
And that's the key point I remember you making, and the Mark Manson quote dovetails into this, which is, you can't be a hero to one woman or a god to one woman without being a total joke to another. And I remember you saying prevalently, which I also thought, which is, right, one girl thinks you're a loser or whatever, and that must mean all women think I'm a loser. And I also had that, because the problem is, when you're at high school or whatever, or you've got the girls' school next door, which I was at private school, because women communicate, there is a danger of that, right? Because a tribe of girls, right, friendship group, if one does think you're a loser, then it can contaminate. And that's why the beauty of why I like doing cold approach, because you're completely casting your net to anyone, any man and their dog, right? So even if you are a total joke to some groups of girls, you just get on a plane, go to another country, you get a fresh opportunity, roll of the dice, don't you? And you've reiterated you're probably not going to make the same mistakes again. Well, you can improve at the same time.
Yeah, no, you're right. There is actually, in those small, close communities, there is actually a genuine danger of her saying, "Oh, Troy asked me out," and what.
And that's where the awkwardness comes from, and that's what we're bred to probably what we're bred to believe. Oh shit, women think I'm a joke. Because it's just in that microcosm.
Yeah, and I suppose it links with evolutionary psychology as well, because remember, we were all brought up in, typically we were from very small tribes, weren't we? We were like 150 people at max, sort of thing. So it does sort of make sense. But the other thing as well is, in my experience, I mean, I went to school, like I said, I went to school outside of London. So they were quite small, country kind of towns, really. I mean, the school I went to, I don't know how many people. It seemed reasonably big at the time, but we're talking about relatively small country sort of towns. So you don't get any. I never had any sense of the scale of the world really at that point. To me, the town, that was the world, and so that sort of capped my thinking as well. And I did genuinely believe that thing, or at least I convinced myself of like, well, if women are women, girls are girls. They're going to like certain things. If one of them finds that I fall short in some of those things, probably the rest of them do as well, because why wouldn't they? So the other thing I didn't realise is that actually women's tastes are very diverse and broad. They don't all love Channing Tatum. Or I don't know, whoever, Timothy Chalamet or whatever. Right? I mean, women also have different types and different archetypes that they buy into. And that was something I just
Brilliant Wicked Thoughts illustrates, which if guys haven't read, you should absolutely read it. Two Google engineers bought data from the big porn companies and objectively analysed 500 million men's porn internet searches and 500 million women's internet porn searches and compiled the data. And it shows different archetypes women fall for. So the bad boy, right, the James Dean, the intellectual seducer, the Russell Brand, for example, the kind of strong, slightly dark tribe, but alpha, very powerful CEO guy, Christian Grey. So yeah, women do have different preferences. Do you think though, you reach a certain level of power and fame and then basically all bets are off? It's a bit like seeing like what people would call a 10, right? Just an incredibly good looking woman. Pretty much every guy's in a polka. Do you think with women it operates like that as well, where you hit a certain level of fame, or Conor McGregor style fame, wealth, whatever, and you're a fighter, and most women, pretty much all women, the idea of you can't be a joke to one woman and a hero to the next goes out the window, and they pretty much all would bend over for you. Presumably there is, or not really. I
don't know. Probably. I'm inclined.
Would you kick 50 Cent out of bed? Is basically what I'm asking. That's the thing I've been fantasizing about.
Would you kick her out of bed?
50 Cent.
I don't know. Well, I mean,
maybe depends how much Chang.
I was listening to this podcast with two women on it, having a similar conversation to this, but from a women's point of view the other day. And one of the girls was saying she was in a club and there was quite a famous celebrity there, and he was sort of, it was kind of obvious that he was into her. She didn't. Well, she claims, and I don't see why she would have lied about it, that she didn't do anything because she had a boyfriend at the time. I don't know if that changes the arithmetic a little bit. It does slightly go against the hypergamy narrative, doesn't it? Of just like, oh, they'll just, as soon as somebody better comes, they'll. If she was telling the truth, then, but to the actual question, I don't know really, because women. I'm inclined to say yes, there is a certain level of fame where it all goes out the window, and yes, any woman's going to entertain the guy. But having said that, women do have quite strong types, and if they're not into dad bods and Leonardo DiCaprio hits on her, I mean, is she going to go there? I suspect a lot of women would, just for the story, but I don't know. The jury's out. What do you think?
I think there's no such thing as you're not going to get everyone, are you? But I think that you reach a certain level of power and fame, and probably most women are probably going to pop into bed with someone like Brad Pitt or Leonardo DiCaprio, aren't they? They probably wouldn't say no. They might not have all Harry Styles. Some of them wouldn't be like super into it, but they'd probably just do it because it's like, oh, I can tell my friends, because they care about what women think, right? So you probably do reach a certain level where you and I think there's a certain level of women as well, where most guys, even if they have preferences, because some guys do, some guys like especially in Brazil, some guys are obsessed with a huge bubble butt. It's a real thing over here, whereas I tend to like similar to you, more of the skinnier kind of blonde hair, blue eye girls, which ironically are not in high demand here, even though the fucking world, but they would be in Europe. So there are preferences. just going back to the other point you were making, when were you able to disseminate that limiting belief that actually, no, you know what, just because I'm not attracted to one woman, I am attracted to others? When did that kind of come into play for you?
Well, I guess it came into play when I moved to Manchester, and I was approaching a lot because I was going to the clubs, and I was, and this was pre any studying of this stuff or understanding of this stuff. But I was.
Oh, really? So you had that's quite kind of useful, isn't it? You just thought, fuck it, I want to get laid, I'm horny, and you just relentlessly went without any studying of any of these suave forums or any of this stuff.
Yeah, no, completely. And I mean, ironically, well, or maybe not ironically, it actually increased when I stopped drinking, because when I was still drinking, I was a bit sort of messy, I was a bit all over the place. So I would meet girls and things would happen and stuff like that. But sometimes, as I'm sure we've all experienced, those women will maybe not the cream of the crop. And also, even then, if you've got somebody who's stumbling around and vomiting in the corner, sometimes it's not very attractive. So, but what happened then was I got to a point where I had to stop drinking, and then my desire to go and meet girls and get have sex and date and stuff just shot up. And they talk about this with addictive behaviors. You push it down in one area, it comes up in another. So pretty much overnight, I sort of stopped drinking, but I was going to clubs like every night, drinking, chugging Red Bulls, and just like going around and talking to different women and trying to make things happen. And it was purely led by just desire, because remember, at that point, no social media, no Tinder, no Bumble, Hinge, any of that stuff. So the only option you had at that point was to go and talk to people. And I was completely untutored. I was making some pretty basic mistakes. I was putting people on pedestals. I was a bit of a supplicator. I was doing a lot of things that now we would tell guys not to do. But what I was doing was approaching a lot. And what I found through that was that some women just wouldn't give me the time of day. Some women would just say, no, go away. And other women would really like me. And then you start to realize, hang on a minute, this isn't as black and white as I thought. This is actually, women do have these different preferences. And I found that some women really liked me, and other women just wouldn't have pissed on me if I was on fire, sort of thing. And so I guess it was through that I first started to realize, the realities of this stuff.
I think that's a very calming practice for guys to do. Go out and do 100 approaches and see what happens, right? No attachment to alcohol. What ironically find is some of the hottest women will actually tend to accept you, right? With direct approach, because they understand their own level of attractiveness and that you're putting it on the line. They respect confidence, and you'll get also blown out by total buffaloes, right? It happens to me, it happens to Troy. And it's very affirming in a good way, because you realize it's actually not personal. It's just people have different preferences, right? And it could be time of the day, or you look like the ex-boyfriend, or she's in a bad mood, or a dog just died. Often it's never really personal. It's about her. So that was a really similar to what you said. I think that was a really good experience when I've gone through long periods of actually doing 10 approaches a day for many days in a row. Is you start to see the pattern is basically there is no pattern. Right? Yeah. Because you can get absolutely an amazing reaction from a smoke show, go out on a date with her, and a total buffalo also, well, not a total buffalo, because we're not big game hunting, we're not Mr. M, but a fairly average girl, maybe you're just trying to warm up, or you see her from behind, and then, you get in front of her, you realize, oh, she's not that hot, but you still carry on anyway. She blows you out. So it's quite nice to know that it's not just the hottest women all reject you, and what I mean?
Yeah, and this is a mistake that the sort of the black pill, the doomer people would make, because they had this idea that there was this very strict like calculus where, oh, I'm a 7.5, and so I could get a 7.5 or below, and if she's a 7.6, I won't be able to get her, because it's this mathematical thing, and it's complete nonsense, because actually, like you said, I mean, it doesn't, in my experience, it doesn't correlate to looks at all. I mean, if anything, it almost correlates the other way, where I probably have more successes with, let's say, more attractive women than I have with less attractive women. But I also think it comes down to this intangible thing that we sometimes talk about vibe and energy and all that woo-woo stuff as well. I mean, there are some people you just have more energy with, And again, it doesn't necessarily correlate to looks, because I could have a really great vibe, really great energy with a girl who I consider to be very, very good looking, and then I could have just not as good energy with somebody who I would consider to be less good looking. And it's not really correlated with looks. It's something else. But you only find that if you're going out constantly and being social. It's not just going to land in your lap.
It's such a key point, and you had it in Warsaw, didn't you? You were showing me photos of this blondie you went on a date with, and I was like, hell, most men would drop the soap in prison, Supermax, for a shot with her. Yeah. And you were like, well, I didn't really vibe, and I was objectively very good looking, but then another girl who, definitely attractive, but more we joke you're attracted to this kind of an archetype of a less spotted Magda would call it, like short, skinny, brown hair, quite pretty. You were like, yeah, absolutely vibing with her. And I think you make a key point that the vibe is so important, because ultimately you want the meat suit in front of you, the woman's meat suit, to be nice to look at, right? But beyond that, we're just energetic beings. Of course, the vibe is important, and you either click when you've got a good emotional home of calm, self-amused, relaxed, that you train into your nervous system, that you produce to the world, then women will either buy into that or not, and they'll either vibe with it or they won't, and you're going to vibe with a certain vibe of a woman, and that's great. And that's actually way smarter to base a long-term gig off that, right? Obviously, we're saying they have to be attractive physically, but what's beyond that? Of course, the vibe. Do they laugh at your jokes, right? We always say you should be self-amusing, or do they not really get the humor? Do they have similar interests to you in the world? There has to be. I know they always say opposites attract, but there has to be some similarity of worldview. But these are things you can only realize by going and doing the reps, right? And I completely agree. I think vibe is beyond looks. Obviously, tick the box. Yes, they're attractive, right age. Vibe is everything. It's absolutely everything, right? And do you feel energized when you leave their presence, or do you feel deflated? And that works for men, women, food, activities, right? It's the gut instinct of the universal intelligence, not the brain, saying, yeah, that's something for you. And often the brain is not correct. The brain will say to me, right, James, you love doing Colombia's Finest. But actually, when I do it most of the time, I feel anxious and terrible. Yeah. So so it's not actually, it's again, the story about the thing rather than the actual vibe.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing with that particular girl was, it was just quite I can't really explain why. It was quite a revelation. I think it was because, I'd just come out of something that had been quite long and quite intense, and I wasn't really, I don't know. And also,
some people you just don't vibe with. I've had it in Brazil. I've been on talking about you're replacing one bad habit with another. I'm pretty much in the same position as you now, where I'll have an occasional drink, but I've given up everything else. No boozing, and obviously that sprouts up in some horrendous sex addiction in Brazil. So I'm meeting on average 2 new girls a day, right? And some roll round, for the date or whatever. And objectively, they're incredibly good-looking women, but the chemistry's just not there. She's not really laughing at my jokes. We don't really have the same things. There's just no vibe. Whereas some girls, they slip in. It's just we're vibing straight away. It's a very easy thing. So I think guys need to really understand this is a super important process.
Yeah.
Part of the process.
Well, that was what it was like with Miss V, let's call her. So when she, we met at this bar, and she turned up, and as soon as she turned up, firstly, it was like, yes, she is 100% my type. But secondly, as soon as we sat down, there was just this sort of electricity in the air, like this kind of chemistry, and just that there was long pauses, and it was just a lot of prolonged eye contact and all this kind of stuff. And I was just like, and that's why when I came out, I was messaging you and going, this was, not.
I fall in love again. Oh my god.
Hopefully not in a super simpy way, but it just took me by surprise a little bit, because I just thought, this is going to be just some run of the mill, kind of day. Maybe she's quite pretty, whatever. And actually, it almost renewed my faith in not human nature, but it almost renewed my faith in the process again, because I was like, wow, sometimes you can meet people, and there just is this sort of this thing, but it's very unpredictable, and it's very.
This is why we need to be leading with our vibe, right? Going out and having a playful, upbeat flirt with the world vibe, or be social with the world vibe with everyone, because you're going to start to people will just buy into that or they won't. And it's so important, because most women you meet, you're not going to vibe with. You might find them attractive objectively, but beyond that, there's nothing there. So you have to, the old quote was, you have to slay a few dragons to reach a princess. You know, we're not talking banging gargoyles, but just to find women that actually you vibe with. I ran this through the boss the other day, and it said, look, honestly, about 1 in 70 women you're really going to vibe with, you have a conversation with. 1 in 70. Can you believe that? But even if those stats are, maybe the boss is being overly harsh, 1 in 30, that still means 29 of the next girls you banter with, or they're not really going to buy into it, or they buy into it a bit, but they kind of don't really get your jokes, or you don't feel really good around them. So this is a super important thing for guys to consider, because it's not really talked about, right?
No, it's not, but it's also, I guess it's hard to teach. But I think one thing is that, I suppose,
what's the hard bit to teach, though? Are you talking about?
Well, because I suppose I just mean, because it's somewhat unpredictable, it's hard to. Well, I mean, one actionable takeaway is possibly the old expression, "Don't flog a dead horse."
Okay.
Fairly unpleasant image, but basically, you know, sometimes I think we can go on a date, or a guy can go on a date, and he's with a girl, and the vibe isn't there, but he's so thirsty, or he's so desperate to make something happen. He perseveres and he perseveres and he tries, and then maybe nothing comes of it, and he feels really bad at the end. He's like, "Oh, what did I do wrong?" You know, and it's just maybe the energy just wasn't right. Maybe the vibe just wasn't right. And I think I've got a bit better now at sort of, well, you're even better than me at just walking out, giving them a crumpled $50 note and just leaving the scene. But I think I've got better now at sort of knowing this just isn't going to fly for whatever reason. And so maybe I'll be polite and have a drink with them or something like that. But then I'll excuse myself pretty quickly, you know? So I think that's the other thing. And I'm trying to think, to be fair, those have tended to be women that I found less attractive. But if you were with a woman that you found super attractive, but the vibe also wasn't that good, you should also really, in the end, walk away from that. Because
100%.
Because it's like you can, with all the tactics in the world, all the strategies, all the stuff that we teach, yeah, you can improve your odds, but you can't force something that's just not inherently gonna work, you know?
How quickly do you believe you're aware of someone's vibe, and whether you just vibe with them? Is there such a thing as the kind of grower, not a shower, where it takes a bit of time to build in, like in terms of vibe, or do you think it's quite obvious fairly quickly if it's a reciprocal good vibe?
I think often pretty quickly, but I think there's some people maybe you've got to give them a little bit of a chance.
Because they might. This is where we sometimes fuck up, don't we? Because we see an objectively good-looking girl, and then we start going, "Oh, she's an ice queen. She's a bitch. She's not responding to my conversation." But actually, she's just a bit shy, or she's a bit introverted, or she's got her dog just died. Right?
Yeah.
She's not active in the moment, but because we're so conditioned to hot girl not responding well to me, oh, what a bitch. It's again where you have to access a person view or 6-person view and reprogram the meaning and reassign it, being like, actually, you know what? Maybe I'm being presumptuous here.
Well, this is another thing, because I have always tended to blame myself if there hasn't been initial interest, or if it hasn't gone well. I've always tended, unlike one of our clients who believes that every single woman is madly in love with him. I've always tended to be more like she doesn't like me. What have I done wrong? What is substandard about me? You know, that to make her not like me. What I've actually realised now after years is that it's sometimes a bit more nuanced than that. Sometimes they actually do like you, but they're either a bit shy or self-protecting, because they're a bit like, maybe they've been burned in the past by some other guy, and they're like, oh, maybe this guy's a bit of a player, and they're kind of holding back a little bit. Like the more that you talk to women, the more you deal with women, you realise, because I've been in experiences where, I don't know, maybe I've met somebody, and initially it hasn't really gone anywhere, and then later on we've met again, and it has gone somewhere. And then I talked to her about it afterwards, and she said, no, I liked you. I just felt like I was worried about getting hurt, or I was worried about this or that, you know? So I think the tendency to just default blame ourselves and go, I'm not good enough, I'm not hot enough, her ex-boyfriend must have been richer than me or whatever. A lot of that is in our heads as well.
100% agree. And I had it literally the other day. Girl came round, we had a bit of fun. She's quite cold. I was like, okay, interesting, whatever. And I just wrote it off as, oh, maybe I wasn't that sharp or whatever. And she's been manically texting me since. And as soon as she left in the Uber, she wrote, Amé, not in contra. Well, I loved our meeting, right? And I was just like, hold on a second. Completely blindsiding me. But we've got to remember that women aren't going to necessarily show all their cards. They may have been burned in the past. They may just be a bit introverted. There's every type of makeup going on. Yeah, and you're so right. The default is in a slightly honourable way, because I like this Jocko Willink thing of, right, what could I have done better? Extreme ownership. But we tend to flagellate ourselves slightly and maybe not necessarily needfully blame ourselves. You know, when we just we've misread the person, haven't we? And then the brain jumps to conclusions.
Yeah, because like I say, what we tend to forget is that they've also had bad experiences. They also are somewhat protecting themselves, and they also don't necessarily want to show all their cards. Even if she's intimate with you, even if you guys end up going to bed or whatever, she's still not necessarily going to sort of show all of her cards on the first day, because she's also protecting herself a bit, right? And that's something I never took into account for years. It's only really in the last few years I've started to even really realise that, you know.
It's a really crucial point, because we just assume they're going to be, showing mad that they're madly in love with us. But actually, if they did, it's really, really off-putting.
Well,
so they're playing correctly by not doing that, and then we're desperate for more shows that they're into us, aren't we?
Yeah, I mean, and unfortunately, because of human nature being as it is, I mean, I've then had that problem, which is that sometimes a girl is too into me from the off, and then I stop liking her as much. And it's a stupid quirk.
Well, no, I 100% agree with you. For me, it's very off-putting. So we can only flip it round to, women wanting the man to be them on his mission. And if James Bond is in bed, suddenly texting the girl manically, the girl's like, what the fuck's he up to, right? He's too eager too fast. And that was a problem I had for many years. I'd fall in lust with women. I'd have the first date, bang them, and then be wildly obsessed with them just because that's how I'm built. But I would make the mistake of showcasing that to them, text them too quickly, too soon, and actually you've got to play the game, right?
Yeah, it is difficult, and sometimes there's a distinct. I don't know how you feel about it. I think there's a distinction between being sort of in lust with them and just like, oh, I really fancy her, I really want to see her again because I want to repeat that experience with her, versus, oh my God, I think she could be my future wife. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the time with me, it was the first one. It wasn't necessarily like, oh my God, I'm so in love with this girl. It was more like, she's super hot, she's really sexy, I would like to see her again and repeat whatever happened between us. But to her, it comes across the same. Because you're like texting, you're sending all these texts, and she's like, "Oh God, this guy's a bit keen," or maybe she realizes it's more of a sexual motive, but it looks a bit needy and it looks a bit sort of. So we do have to be careful with this stuff for sure. I think it gets a bit easier with time, and again,
as well. I mean, Tomasi made the good point. Like plate spinning and sequels, having different leads on the go, it's necessary to stop us falling into the trap of over messaging one girl.
Well, abundance is definitely key. As you know, I mean, same thing that's been said for years now. But yeah, abundance definitely makes a difference, or at least, even if not actual abundance, just the knowledge that you could be meeting up. There are other people out there. You could be meeting other people. But other than that, I think it's like texting is like another dopamine here, isn't it? It's like cigarettes. It's like the marching powder. It's like drink, whatever. It's another thing. You send that message, and then a message comes back, and you get that little hit, don't you? Like, oh, and like with all of these habits, we need to try and resist that to some extent, or at least limit it.
Your emotional home shouldn't be affected. You should be calm, self-amused, and relaxed, regardless of whether she tells you in a message to fuck off. Or she's like, suck your dick, shouldn't we? But it's training your nervous system to be unaffected by it. And we are, unfortunately, I'm still guilty of this, because I literally the same thing. Yesterday, two girls that I hadn't replied, that I'd seen on dates that I wanted to see again, both messaged me nice messages, and I had this extra little spring in my step, like a little spring lamb. Yeah. And I caught myself in the act. I was like, what am I fucking doing? It's pathetic. You shouldn't be living off the validation of these two chicks, even if they're hot, right? It's like, no, come on, I've got to be man authentic. But we feel mean, I don't know how you train that out of you, without becoming some sort of cyborg. But
I don't really know if you. Well, I don't know. I don't know if you can entirely, but I mean, certainly having a little bit of abundance, having some options, I think really helps because.
Well, and more fatty as well, as you touched on before, because if you truly love whatever the result is, if she texts you, say, or doesn't text you back, instead of just being like, for fuck's sake, your brain trying to create a narrative against reality, just be like, fuck it, I accept. I don't just accept it, I fucking love it. Great. Gives me time to go and see a girl who's more into me, right?
Yeah,
so it's in the brain that will create these narratives that cause us pain, right? But they're neutral events, and then it's how we interpret.
Should we have a look at some of these comments?
We probably should.
Troy, that's a seriously clean, very English gentleman vibe. Is that Savile Row cut? And do you think appearance plays a role in becoming dangerous, or is it all about mindset? So it's not a Savile Row cut. However, this jacket, which was not super cheap, but not super expensive. I actually got it retailored. I just got it back yesterday. So the guy, because I've got this tailor who does not Jack that we know. I've got another guy who does alterations. So he tapered the sleeves, he shortened the sleeves a little bit, and he took it in at the waist a bit. So I really like that as a kind of middle ground. You can buy something off the peg, and then if you've got someone good that you can go to, get it reshaped a bit. And it can really raise, a garment up to the next level. So that's the answer to that. Do you think appearance plays a role in becoming dangerous, or is it about mindset? Well, I mean, this is the thing. We've got off topic as usual. But when we talk about looking dangerous or someone being dangerous, we tend to probably stereotypically think about a Wes Watson type guy or some dude with like tattoos on his face or something. I mean, if you had a stereotypical, what does a dangerous guy look like? It's probably not a guy wearing a tweed jacket like me. It's probably some bloke with tattoos on his neck and all that kind of stuff. But can you look dangerous and wear a suit? Yeah, 100%. Look at Daniel Craig, right? So I think fundamentally, yes, I think it is about mindset, actually. I don't know what you think.
I think it's about mindset, as you said, but I think it's about learning some core skills, isn't it? I think if guys are able to learn to fight, learn to hold frame, right? Well, be dangerous physically, so be in good shape, learn a fighting style, but be mentally dangerous, and by that I mean emotionally unfuckwithable, right? You interpret the events themselves mean nothing, it's our interpretation. So act like nothing bothers you, right? And actually train your nervous system to be unaffected by things, because pretty much everything is small stuff, isn't it? Don't sweat the small stuff.
Well,
and then be verbally dangerous. So learn to speak convincingly, learn to persuade, learn to hold frame, right? I think those are three things that I'd say.
I think you can give off a vibe by how you come across, and it's not actually to do with. I mean, like I say, you got the stereotypical some bloke wearing a biker jacket with tattoos. Oh, he looks dangerous. Right? There's that, but it doesn't have to be that. And I told you the story, which I still find a little bit cringe, in Warsaw when I met this. This was a few years ago. I met this Ukrainian girl, and I was wearing a suit actually, and she said, "Oh, there's something dangerous about you. You've got this dangerous vibe about you." And I was like, so inside, I'm like, yes. And obviously, I played it cool on the outside. And I mean, the reality is, I mean, I've done some boxing lessons now and stuff like that. But I'm a pretty mild mannered kind of middle class English guy, really. But if you could sort of give across that, I mean, it's all about the impression that they get, isn't it? It's impression management. And if I can give across that impression, I mean, it helps that I've got some tattoos and stuff as well. So I'm not just, and that kind of contrast, I think, works really well. I'm not saying go and get tattoos, but it's just sort of like there's, yes, I like to wear suits. I like to wear smart clothes, but I've also got these tattoos. So that kind of creates a sort of contrast. So they can't quite figure you out. And I think, which is all more like, it's more like mindset and presentation than it is about, specifically what you wear, if that makes sense.
Dominance, I mean, Psychhacks did quite a good video on this, which I agree with. Actually, dominance is psychological. So it's all about reality is perception, perception is reality. And the example he used is, have you ever seen a small dog barking at a bigger dog and the bigger dog being scared, and you have, right? It's not because the bigger dog couldn't physically overpower the small dog, but in that moment, the smaller dog has psychological dominance, right? So it's how you present. It's absolutely, as you said, Troy, it's how the impression management you can hold and you can give. Now, obviously, if you're actually in a fucking fight with 5 blokes, yeah, if you can't fight, you kind of fucked, aren't you? But it's probably rare. Most guys are probably not going to find themselves in that situation. Yeah.
And it's more how yes, obviously that happens. Yes, maybe you're fucked in that specific situation, but it's more how you hold yourself up until that moment, if that makes sense.
You could still start it out because you walk away, you're like, oh, for your safety, we have to leave to the bird, and you whisk her out very calmly, as if it wouldn't have affected you, right? So there's always ways of playing it, because it is ultimately perception, isn't it?
Yeah, I think the hormones. Don't really want to go massively down the hormones route, but I think the hormone management stuff helps with this stuff quite a lot.
Yes.
As well. I mean, I know we both used. I'm not using it at the moment, but we both used a certain anabolic compound, which gives you that sort of unfuckable with kind of vibe to you, and it does make a difference on how people perceive you, like not girls, but how other men perceive you, And I feel like, and maybe it's to do with maybe it's to do with that, or maybe it's to do with just other experiences I've had over the last few years. But I feel pretty confident. I mean, I was at maybe I won't mention his name because it's slightly controversial. England for the English kind of character in London, and we were at we didn't attend the march, but we were in town. There was a big march. There was a lot of sort of like England, Stone Island wearing bomber jacket type dudes around, and I'm there with my girlfriend who is of a different ethnic background and stuff like that. And there's all these like sort of tough blokes drinking Tennent Super and like, fucking hell, like that. And I didn't feel any sense of unease at all in that crowd. I mean, to be fair, at that point, it was all fairly peaceful anyway. I think there was some arrests later, but I didn't feel I felt completely confident, like walking through those people with her and not worrying. And I thought if anybody was to confront us, I don't think they would have done, but if they did, I felt no compunction at all in that situation, which I think for me is is kind of a step forward, because once again, from being a sort of bookish sort of wallflower type dude to sort of becoming that is, I guess that's the kind of transformation we want for people, really, isn't it? If you're not there already.
I would say so. I think that's I think a lot of life is all a bit of a mind game, isn't it? It's how you perceive yourself, right? And how other people perceive you. They don't actually know if you've got a gun in your fucking trousers, right? Or if you can fucking fight karate or fucking Muay Thai. But if you've got a presence, you can train command presence. You can train that, can't you?
You could definitely do that. And as far as that might, I mean, look, listen, I'm in London. I could probably get stabbed after this, but I mean,
you're in the most. We always joke about this, but the most dangerous incidents I've had have all been in London, near where I live. I travel around to all these places like Venezuela, Brazil, Colombia, never any trouble. And it's London starred is where it all kicks off.
Yeah, but I do think that there is something in the way that you carry yourself that might defer people a little bit. If you're carrying yourself with a certain, and again, listen, anything could happen. I'll probably regret saying this, I don't know, next week or whatever. But I think there is something about how you carry yourself. And if you carry yourself with that sort of confidence that you look like you're kind of able to handle yourself to some degree, I think that helps.
And the irony is, when I'm suited and booted, which is a typical kind of what maybe a guy would be like, it's the beta dress, I actually feel the most confident, the most dominant. And I tend to inspire that reaction from people as well. The irony in a suit, but I guess you could say mafioso wear suits, couldn't you? It's not the stereotypical 9-to-5 office worker. Helsinki this summer was actually surprisingly good. We're with a couple of clients, myself and Les, and it was good to be there. Look, it's a great place to go to be social. The Finns are quirky people. They're very social. There are some hot girls, and it was fun. I would go back to the Playfest. Helsinki's got some interesting vibe to it for sure.
Okay,
thanks for the heads up, Aurelius. I will get the Mr. Les, the Charisma King, to check that out. Did you guys go to an all boys school? I did. Yes, I did for the first up till I went 4 till 13 boys school, and then 13 to 18. But the good thing about the 13 to 18 school was next door there was an all girls school, so we did get to mingle, and it was my first experience really of dating women, right? And kind of being in that environment, and it was. I've always had this theory that, it'd be interesting to get your take on this, but if you've had sisters growing up, that makes you somewhat better with women. Now, it doesn't necessarily apply because obviously you said it didn't. But I think if you typically go to mixed schools and you have sisters, you're more likely to understand at least.
Well, I have both those advantages, and I was still telling you.
Theory's out the window then.
I don't know, but I know.
Guys who I do know, who are kind of what I'd call naturals, actually had that set up where they've grown up around women, but it doesn't necessarily equate to it, does it?
Yeah.
This could be the one and only Goody. It could be.
I was introverted.
I think first up until 19, then I started talking in front of my class, started liking it, became more social because of it. Yeah, I mean, look, it's all, you can't be good at any skill set you don't practice with repetition. Pick the skill sets you want to do, you want to get good at, and simply expose yourself to those skill sets enough to get good at them. It's quite simple.
Yeah.
It's
just by the way, we also have a massive advantage here, which is not really acknowledged, or maybe guys don't. But the fact that we come on these live streams and we talk nonsense for an hour, and we've made thousands of videos between us, over many years. Huge advantage in terms of, because it's a transferable skill set. So people talk about conversation skills and stuff like that, and it's not like my conversation is always on fire. But generally speaking, I can sit down in front of somebody and generate a conversation. Partly because when we're doing this, we have to come up with stuff on the fly for, and we're doing this live now, it's not pre-recorded, it's not edited. So I don't know how that translates into practical advice, but even if you don't have to do YouTube or whatever, but you could maybe record yourself. I was saying to one client, you could take a random word and just say, right, I'm going to record a 2-minute video of me talking about around that word, and just keep doing that and practicing that.
Maybe in front of the mirror. Yeah, but the best practice is literally every day, just realize you're going to wake up not very social. And all you've got to do throughout the day, right? I'm about to leave the house in Sao Paulo now. I'm going to go down to a coffee shop nearby. It's quite sunny weather. I'm feeling a bit more warmed up because I've been guffing away with Troy on this live stream, but I'm going to say a joke in Portuguese to the woman serving coffee. I'm then going to go to the gym. I'm going to say one extra thing. Always say one extra thing, right? So person signing means the gym. I'm going to say one extra thing. And then I'm going to go and meet a girl later, right? It's just realizing you're going to wake up antisocial, and your job is get yourself social by being social throughout the day.
Yeah.
Just treat the day as a day and string them together, and suddenly you're actually quite social, or people will comment going, God, you're really confident. And you don't perceive yourself necessarily as that, but you're just the sum of your habits.
Yeah, definitely. What has more
environment? What is environmental factors? Where you're positioning? God, that's a clever question. If he's actually meant it like that, where you're positioning yourself in the world as a shiny.
Well, I would say then game and environmental factors probably.
Is that what he means by environmental factor?
I guess so. Yeah, I guess
nothing to do with the environment, like Greenpeace,
like. What Greta?
Who's that one with Down syndrome?
Thunberg.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Would you poker?
Probably not, but it was quite funny though.
For the fame, for the kudos.
Well,
the banter with the lads. We'd have great banter about it.
I think he's trolling here. If you're in your apartment for 10 hours a day and then you head out in the evening, your game would be near perfect. I once watched Tom Ferreira 6 hours and went out, had a huge success, at least 8 numbers, top tier corkers. Okay, well, good stuff. I don't believe there's 8 billion. I doubt it's even 3, to be honest. Well, I mean, I don't know why you think that, but I think it's more than 3 billion. Troy Tusk is becoming dangerous. The path. What's the end of it? Is it peace, mastery, love, purpose? What are you ultimately chasing? I don't know really. We're talking about a means to an end here. Really, we're talking about developing an aura of dangerousness. You could soften it and say being a risk taker. Maybe that's a different way of putting it. in order
I have
to.
actually a couple of good quotes to throw into this that I took screenshots of the other day, which I thought were pretty good. I will pull them up here. So they're a bit of a mixed bag, but maybe they're not relevant whatsoever to this, but I'll spew them out anyway, which is, there are no facts, only interpretations, Friedrich Nietzsche. Ooh. If you're lonely when you're alone, you're in bad company, Jean-Paul Sartre. That's an interesting one, isn't it? Because I feel terrible when I'm on my own most of the time. So maybe I need to work on that. If you're lonely when you're alone, you're in bad company. You'll never be happy if you continue to search for what happiness consists of. You'll never live if you're looking for the meaning of life, Albert Camus. There is nothing noble in being superior to your fellow man. True nobility is being superior to your former self, Hemingway. You're an aperture through which the universe is looking and exploring itself, Alan Watts. So we're playing an infinite game, right? We're not. Too many guys are obsessed with this happily ever after, right? I go through the game thing, I bang a load of women, I get a wife, I cash my chips out. That's the end of it. It doesn't work like that, right? You're always, what Manchin said, there's always a certain flavor of shit sandwich you're having to swallow. If you're married to what you perceive to be your dream girl, you're still going to have issues, right? Maybe the sex dries off, you've got really good connection, but you crave sex, or maybe the kids are playing up. If you stay single like us, the eternal bachelor, eventually there are elements of feeling lonely, right? Or unfulfilled because you want to have a dynasty. So it's never 100% that's the right thing to do. And the only way to figure out what's the better thing to do for the individual concerned is try lots of different stuff to do with dating and see what makes you feel most alive for that period of time. And then be willing to drop and move on. I think that's it.
Yeah, exactly. But as far as the end game, so I haven't really thought about the end game very hard recently. I'm not sure. I mean, there isn't an end game really, because again, I could walk out now and get run over by a bus, and then that's the end.
Well, the end game is in a very small amount of time in universal times, we're all going to be dead. So that's the ultimate end game.
Yeah.
So
or I
enjoy the ride.
Or I could say I could get married to somebody. I could hang up my boots and say, right, I'm going to get married. I'm going to do all of that. But then she might divorce me in 5 years' time. And so what I thought was the end game actually isn't the end game at all. So that, life is it's not this linear thing where it's like, right, okay. I mean, I think if you want to get philosophical about it, I think the spiritual search, I think the search for one's identity, I think the search for meaning is a sort of. But even that, you're probably not going to find an end game unless you become, you're sitting on a mountain in Nepal or something. I mean, even that is a continuous journey, right? So I don't think there is necessarily an end game. I think it's just a continuous journey. You have to do your best with the cards as they're dealt to you, and who knows where you end up, really. I mean, that's the reality of it.
And just to end that point, the quote I was actually trying to find, which I didn't find and filtered through a load of others, was the Soren Kierkegaard quote, which is, life is not a problem to be solved, but a reality to be experienced. Because ultimately, if you zoom out far enough, we're just tiny meat dots, right, on this planet. We all have these wrapped up with these narratives, individual stories of that's so important. When you zoom out far enough, none of it is important, right? So you must find meaning, but you must also enjoy the fact that you're conscious. One day, suddenly there's blackness. You might as well fill your time with experience. So experience as much as possible and enjoy the ride, right? And that's the frame I try and live by. And people think it's weird, but I actually think it's weird that they'll sit in uncomfortable situations they've created, whether it's a bad relationship or the place they don't want to live, and then think that's normal.
Yeah.
It's normal for them, but it's not the right optimal way to live, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It's a great quote. Actually, one more time to the troops, because we'll never remember it again. But life is not a problem to be solved, but a reality to be experienced. And this was said by a guy who was most considered quite serious. But again, the serious guys actually come out with some nuggets of wisdom from time to
time. After running through all those women, do you guys still have feelings? Yes, absolutely. Too many feelings, really.
Same with me. I'm too emotional, to be honest.
Yeah. So no, absolutely the opposite. Somebody's asking about Fresh and Fit and Abu and Preach. Those young chaps, Abu and Preach. I mean, this is an example. I mean, look, I love Fresh and Fit. The guys are great. I don't know anything about. I know very, very, very little about the whole Abu and Preach thing, apart from the fact we used to make jokes about it a few years ago. this kind of thing is a waste of time, really. It's not a waste of time for them because they're getting views and clicks out of it. But for you to be thinking about it and asking a question about it is a waste of time. Because
you're supposed to be the main character in your own story, right? And you're worrying about side quests, arguments of side quests between different characters when you're the main character. You're not focusing on the reality. We've got a good one here from Andres Pacino, which is, do you think it's okay to do cold approach in my university, not my classroom? Running around French lessons. Can I tell you, you look really good. I like your shoes, right? No, don't do it in your classroom. University's okay. University's actually great. If I had knowledge of this stuff back when I was at university, I wouldn't have gone around calling everyone French and complimenting them, but I would have gone around and been the super social guy and probably tried to organize a few kind of party events and stuff, putting myself in that position of power, which I didn't do. University was largely wasted by me, and we can, I mean, it is what it is.
I don't know. There's more Avram preach shit here.
Forget all this Avram preach. I'm not going on Fresh and Nutsack because my umbilical cord to go on there is evaporated because Troy no longer goes on, so I can't go on.
Well, I mean, I was in Miami earlier in the year, and I was in contact with them, and there was some talk about me going on. I think they couldn't. I was only there for a few days. I think they couldn't fit me in the end, and Fresh did contact me afterwards, but I'd already left. So I mean,
and also we did give them a window to get me on in London, and they fucked that up. Yeah. So I'm not that fussed, to be honest.
They're great guys. I really like them. They're cool guys. But I mean, look, it is what it is. They've got their thing. We've got our thing. We're doing something slightly different, and that's just how it is, really. That's probably about it, really. It's hilarious in saying though, Myron dresses. Yeah. Okay.
No way. Yeah.
Well, I mean,
live on a stream.
Sorry.
He did that live on a stream, and you can get away with that. I'm intrigued. I mean, I love the.
Oh, I mean, whatever. Anything else to add? Do you think?
No, I've just got this image in my head I need to search that stream out and watch it immediately.
Well, they did get into some quite controversial waters for sure. But what can you do? So anyway, anything else?
Nothing else to add apart from, guys, get in touch, come out, join us in Mexico City. If you've been watching our content for a while and you like the cut of our jib for whatever reason, and you think we can help you in this field, come and join us. Like, why not? What have you got to lose?
Yeah, we're there for, I mean, the whole thing is about 6 days, I think, but if you can do, a couple of days or whatever, the email addresses are below, troy@realtroyfrancis.com or info@jamestuss.com. So drop us an email, include your WhatsApp details if you can. We can jump on a call with you. We can discuss the logistics and we can take it from there. But, I mean, in-person training, it's one thing watching us talking about this stuff on video. It's another thing coming out in the field with us and actually giving you real time.
It's really the thing that's going to move the needle the most.
Yeah.
Like, if guys are serious about doing this, don't troll me, don't do it yourself. Just pay some money and get thrown in 200 times. Break the back of the anxiety, train your nervous system, you're not going to die. Have fun along the way because we're bantering, we're not taking it too seriously, we're having a few tequilas. And enjoy the trip, right? Enjoy the ride and come out to Mexico City. It's an awesome city, actually. It
really is, yeah. It's a really
I'm looking forward to going back. It's been a while.
Indeed. No, it's going to be good. All right, guys, thanks for tuning in, and we're possibly doing another one of these tomorrow. So stay tuned for that. But anyway, we will see you again very soon. Bye-bye.
Yes, all good.